Hi, I'm Brad Stevens, Executive Chef at Community Servings here in Jamaica Plain, Massachusetts. We serve the homebound critically ill, approximately 700 people a day to 725 people a day with homemade meals. I'm going to show you today a recipe called barley jambalaya, which is a heart-friendly and diabetic-friendly meal that we learned from Share Our Strength. It's one of the groups that we work with to try to teach our clients as they come off our services how to do meals that are specially tailored to whatever problems they might have. And basically, a little bit different than what they do. I have my own little nuances here and there that I like to throw in. But when you're cooking approximately for 700 people, you learn a few tricks along the way. First off, we're going to start with just a homebound, a little bit of heat in the pan, about a tablespoon of oil going in. I've already got the pan warm, and then we're going to take a couple medium onions that we've diced up ahead of time. We're going to saute these up, sweat them up is the appropriate term in our sort of lingo, where they're just translucent. This takes about 3 to 4 minutes. You don't want to get them brown. You want to keep stirring them the whole time that you're doing this. And we start with onions because they take about the longest to cook. When they're almost done, next I'm going to add 2 stalks of celery that have been diced up as well. And you keep these all going until they get soft as well, for about a total of now 5 minutes or so. Keep stirring them all the time. And if you want to cheat every now and then, you can take the pan and just flip it a little bit too. That works as well. Next, green peppers. 1 medium green pepper goes in. And once again, we're just going to get it so it's all soft. Now what I'm showing you here is a slightly different way than what a lot of people do. A lot of people would tell you to cook the barley in this pan first and have it all going. What we're going to do is I want to keep these vegetables crunchy. And I'm going to take these out here after they've sauteed up and everything else along those lines. And I've gotten everything else in. I just put in 2 tablespoons of garlic, or 2 cloves of garlic, I'm sorry. We're going to take that, take the off heat, and take these out of the pan that we just cooked them in and put them aside. I want to keep these vegetables crunchy. All right, so we've taken the vegetables out. Now what I want to do is sear off chicken. Now in the recipe we have it listed as turkey ham, which is fine, or some sort of processed turkey. I really advise staying away from that if you can. You'll find the sodium content is much less working off this type of thing, where it's a fresh, nice product. And you can control how you want it cooked and everything else. We really emphasize staying away as much as you can from processed meats and other types of processed foods. That way, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about anything along the lines of trans fats or sodium. You've got a definite control over both. So now what I'm going to do is then, once we've got this all warmed up and just seared into the pan as well, I'm going to pull this off to the side, and the last thing I'm going to do is then just sear these tomatoes in. And there's actually a method to all my madness here of doing this separate. And all I'm doing is just warm these up ever so lightly, and what I'm really after is I'm drawing all the flavors out of things that we're working with. Because next what we're going to do is I'm going to take these out, and then we're going to add the barley and the water and start with this. But what we've done is we've added all these flavors in the beginning to the barley water that we're going to actually cook in. And that way the barley actually pulls and absorbs a lot of those flavors. These are a lot of the little tricks that we're after when we're cooking food for a lot of people, that we can do things without adding a lot of additional seasonings and or salt and or fats. And it all comes down to starting it off and keeping it simple, but starting it off so you're cooking with the products in there in the first place. So now I'm going to pull all of this out, put it on the side. So now I have all those really, really wonderful flavors from everything that we've done over here in there. And now I put the 4 cups of water in to the 1 cup of barley. And we're going to bring this up, and we're going to let this now slowly cook for the next 45 minutes. And all these flavors of all these other vegetables that we've done and worked with here now are going to be absorbed into this barley. So one of the things that really happens is you don't need to add a lot of other things. One of the rules we have in this kitchen, though, and you'll see in a few minutes as we finish this off, is everything goes by taste. And that's what's really important when you're cooking for yourself for either both heart-friendly and or diabetic food. Check it as you cook it and just see. Little pinches of things along the lines of some vinegar or some acids may help a little bit as you're doing this. And it's a wonderful little touch to add. When you think you need salt in something along these lines, a lot of times, just a little bit of vinegar, a lot of times will work as a great substitute for that. Now, one of the reasons, a lot of times if you're down in the south with jambalayas and everything else that you're trying to work with, you think that it is actually rice a lot of times. Why are we using barley here? Well, barley is a great, great grain in the sense that it has a lot of fiber. And for those of us who are diabetic and otherwise, this is wonderful. It helps to maintain a good blood sugar simply because with that fiber, you feel fuller. You're not going to quite eat as much, so you sort of fool your little tummy into thinking that everything along the way you're fuller and you're not going to eat as much. This way there's less variance going on. And this is one of the great reasons to try to do this with barley versus a lot of other things, and particularly rice. I love rice, but at the same time, this dish comes out really well, and I really recommend it. Okay, so now it's 45 minutes later. We have our barley, all the material's been absorbed, all the liquid's been absorbed into everything. And you still need to always check it and taste it and just make sure it's right where you want it to be. Now we come back and we add all of these wonderful vegetables back in again. And I mean, this is where the fun really starts, because you start seeing the whole dish now come together. Trying to get it all in sometimes can be a little bit difficult, but that's all right. And one of the things that I did do a little different here too than what the recipe calls for. The recipe is almost fine, but for Heart Healthy, we want to also, and for diabetics, we want more protein than what actually is called for in the original recipe. I almost doubled it. We want about 3 ounces to 5 ounces per person. 5 ounces is what we do here at community servings. What you want at home, though, is about between 3 to 4 ounces. 3 ounces is about the best in those areas. So now we've got all this in, we start mixing it up, and we're going to let these flavors all meld together here for about 15 minutes. And before we finish that, we're going to add a little bit of cayenne pepper, a little bit of pepper, a pinch of salt. You don't really need much in this, but the real flavor in a jambalaya, dried oregano. You could use fresh oregano, but you'll find that in this case, the dried oregano will actually come out much better if you just let this work and cook for about 15 minutes at this point in time. You do want to keep it on low heat. You want to keep it working the entire time so you don't scorch the bottom on it whatsoever. Make sure it's thoroughly mixed. Get all those seasonings together. And voila. We do have a barley jambalaya for 6 people. So here's our finished product. Now this looks like it is an awful lot, but you got to remember, this is your everything. This is all in one right here. You've got both your starch, you got a lot of vegetables in this dish, and you have your meat. And it's typical of the American plate that we want to talk about anymore, which is generally you want this much starch on one plate. You want this much vegetable on one plate along with this. And you want approximately this much meat. When you look at what this portion is, that's what it actually all comes out to. And it's a really wonderful way to do it. The real key to any of what we've been talking about and anything during the whole course of the day as we're cooking things here and everything else, the key words are moderation and portion control. That's what it's all about. You can eat a number of things that you couldn't do prior as a diabetic But yet, if you watch your portion, you'd be surprised. If you actually look at the fiber and look at your carbohydrates, you'd be surprised what you can actually eat. Thank you very much. That's Brad Stevens from Community Servings. Bye-bye now.